At Black Mental Health Matters, we are redefining the narrative. There is immense strength in softness. There is courage in choosing to heal, in setting down the heavy lifting, and in claiming your peace as a non-negotiable right. We are building the infrastructure for impact. A collective space where the diaspora can find tools, community, and the unshakable permission to slow down, process, and thrive. Your healing is not a luxury, it is the foundation. Join the movement. Let's build a softer, stronger tomorrow together.
Grand rising, everyone. I guarantee you this is not a AI background. I'm one with nature. So glad to have you all this July 4th for Black Mental Health Matters. And we'll be opining on healing Black family. And before we get started, I want to bring up a family topic that's an actual current event, really briefly, concisely. Zach Bailey, this young athlete in Canton, Ohio, has been ostracized and put to the side by racism and a lot of tactics of utilization of taking him out of the game. And the coach is putting his son in over a phenomenal player that is getting ready to get into his senior year. And quite frankly, I'm asking anyone that is watching this, put in hashtag support Zach, Z-A-C Bailey, because this kind of athletic redlining doesn't belong in society today. And the Bailey family is really feeling the rift of all of what's going on with just this ugliness, this resurgence that has always been going on regarding athletic racism. So for anyone that's watching, it would be highly obliged if you all put in hashtag support Zach, Z-A-C Bailey. And it's something to where I spoke with his father, shout out to Rob, and it was just heartbreaking that these kinds of things that Jackie Robinson, Satchel Paige fought for, and now is deteriorating. I am your host, Dr. Corporal Deontay Carter, with the phenomenal, outstandingly wise Lisa Carrington.
Hi, guys.
So, victim advocate to help survivors of sexual violence, and an executive board member with the NAACP, former chairperson of military for military veterans within the NAACP, and that's a concise introduction of me. How about yourself, Lisa?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being on board. For myself, I am a health and safety lead here in Toronto, Ontario, a Black woman in this space. Usually it's me, the only one, and just navigating through this space. And so conversations like this or spaces like this is a great avenue for people that are in these types of spaces like myself, where you're trying to hold it together, or you're trying to, find outlets where you can be yourself and express yourself. So very thankful to be here and to be speaking today. And we have all our wonderful guests. So I don't know if we want to do like just a quick round table to find out who everybody is.
Yes.
Whoever wants to start. Kurt, you look like you want to start.
I started first last time. I'm trying to not be a Diana Ross and Supremes, right? Okay. I'm Kurt Lamar Jones. I am an educator and actor, and I am an advocate for the youth in particular. And I am so happy to be sharing in this auspicious occasion this morning. Welcome to all of you.
Who's next?
I can go. Hi, my name is Ariana Johnson. I'm a master level licensed clinical social worker, as well as a mental health therapist based out of Cleveland, Ohio. And I am a mental health advocate as well as a Black maternal health advocate. And I'm so happy to be a part of this conversation this morning.
Look, we're being outnumbered by Cleveland right
Cleveland.
now. This is Cleveland's in the house today.
I'm down south here in Canton, but originally from Akron, where LeBron, is from, Chris Beanie Wells is from, a lot of Ohio State and Cavalier greats. So
the land, yes, I am from the land. I am a native land.
Nice.
Well, I'll go next. Edward Henderson, Dr. Edward Henderson. I'm a leader in healthcare consulting. My focus these days is specifically on policy as it relates to the political determinants of health and how those factors affect us as society is impacted by policy itself as it comes through every fabric of our society, not only for African Americans, but all folks. And I'm definitely an advocate for our youth and preparing them for tomorrow and all the things that I do. That's my big picture, and with my research really focuses on drilling down into how epigenetics have affected our people from the womb until conception today.
Wow, it's beautiful work. I'm glad to be a part of all of this, part of this group. And I'm Marcus Robinson. I'm the founder of the Adaptive Terrain Institute, and we do work in the human development space, primarily by reinterpreting the human being as an energetic being that has with a narrative framework, and that's all to say in a very complicated way that we are our narrative, and the words we use to tell our stories shape our physiology and our experience. And so as I come into this conversation, I'm interested in the kinds of conversations we can have with ourselves internally and with our loved ones in family situations and in a therapeutic environment as well.
Okay, wonderful.
That's beautiful, beautiful work you all are doing, and much needed work. And it leads me to my first question. So when it comes down to Black families, we've always had this unique stigma ideology around generational trauma. So generational trauma, and I want to piece together the disability community. I don't look it. I'm 90% disabled, acquired disabled, and when we're dealing with, when family is being talked about, we might have some of our young ones that are on the autism spectrum, some of our young ones that's on just different variances of spectrums regarding mental health, but then also developmental acquired disabilities. So to add that into this question, generational trauma has affected Black families for centuries. How would you define generational trauma, and how does it continue to impact the Black communities today?
Can I start? I'm
Yes.
excited about that. Yeah, I was looking at the questions last night and came up with my own definition. I'm going to read it to you here. Generational trauma is the inherent legacy of dysfunction and marginalization that Black families pass down across generations, shaping coping patterns, family dynamics, and worldview long after the original harm, slavery, has occurred. Today, it continues to show up as real disparities in wealth, health, education, employment, political power, and treatment by the justice system. These aren't separate problems. They're connected outcomes of the same generational wound, reinforcing each other over time.
And just to expound upon that, because that was an excellent definition of what generational trauma means and what it represents in the Black community. I think generational trauma is extremely prevalent in the Black family dynamic because for centuries, we haven't been taught or we haven't been given the resources on how to alleviate the trauma. Specifically as it pertains to being in a space, a lot of our families have been groomed under the paradigm of what happens in this house stays in this house, and that mantra
Mm.
has caused trauma within itself because these Black families, we have been taught that, first of all, we were distrusting of each other because let's just say we had somebody in our proximity to us that might share information that might be detrimental to our family members from a systemic oppression standpoint or from even a violent standpoint. So we were very distrusting of other people. And then because that Black people are vulnerable with the lack of access that the conventional family structure, we took pride in time that we tried to, anytime that there was somebody who was living with bipolar disorder and anxiety disorder, that was in our family, we wanted to maintain this cloak of, oh, everything is fine, everything is okay, we got this, because in our world, vulnerability was a sign of weakness, whereas vulnerability is more so a sign of help, reaching out and asking for help. So it's also, what the brother said, but it's also about us not being able to feel comfortable with reaching out and asking for resources to alleviate that trauma.
Hmm. That's a lot.
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll expand on those wonderful viewpoints. But generational trauma isn't just something that has been passed down. We are absolutely surviving the aftershock of specific policy. What we call trauma is lacking in some ways. It's almost inaccurate because it's more of an adaptive response to political decisions and policy, redlining, divestment, policing, etc., that we've never fully recovered from as a people because we're always in fight or fight response. I'll go so far as Du Bois's concept of double consciousness. Souls of Black Folk is a wonderful point of reference, and he talks about it years ago, 1903, and we're literally living the things that he talked about there when it comes to Black Reconstruction and how the collapse of our economic systems impacted us as a people, including our mental health and all the things that are a part of that. And so when we talk about healing and mental health, it's not a fracture or a personality for a brokenness. We're talking about a survival response that has not been addressed, and we have not given ourselves an opportunity to heal internally and thus demand that of the world around us.
Oh man, that's beautiful stuff. I want to jump in on this one. So you go all the way back to 1903. We may as well take it all the way back to the 250, right? And since it is 4th of July, and it is the 250th birthday of the original womb. So when you talk about the traumatic impact on the soul, psyche, body, mind, spirit of Black families, you have to recognize that the physiology that we inhabit just will not make peace with the reality of the ongoing what is the word for it? The damage, the harm, the thing that carves out the core of us. You call slavery is just cruelty. That's what it is. It's cruelty, because I want to go with a word that actually goes all the way from the beginning that still lives today. Because Mr. Henderson, the reason why Dr. Henderson, we can't address it even at policy is because the reason why the threat response is happening physiologically, because the threat is still present. That the cruelty is that is the original wound continues to express itself through all the kind of things that you want to talk about, that you want to have policies and practices and procedures and techniques and clinical sessions to work around, right? We got healing stuff for this stuff. No, it's the environment that causes the threat response that cannot be quelched in the body, because the Tyrannosaurus Rex is still looming. Now, how does this really go? It's in the body because you've got 3 generations of genetics in you that come from your mothers. Your mother, your grandmother, and your great grandmother. Now, for all of us sitting here, that takes us all the way back into the 1700s as origin points. And those people's lives and what they went through, those traumas are encoded in their DNA, in their epigenetics, in the histones around your DNA today. It's real, alive, and active. And when you say I hurt by that, it isn't the thing that's on top that hurts. It is the a moral injury that stretches all the way back to the mother continent of Archipelago. And that's what has us so upset, and that's what needs healing. And that takes a different kind of thing than a westernized approach, if you ask Marcus. I'm gonna stop here.
And before we get to Lisa's question, I'm gonna Yasin Bey, formerly known as Mos Def, had a song called Rock and Roll, and he concisely explained what we're speaking on and expounding upon beautifully. My grandmother was born in a reservation. My great grandmother was from a plantation. They sang songs for inspiration. They sang songs for relaxation. They sang songs to take their minds up off of that effed up situation. In that little snippet, that just spoke on how generations had to be resilient around oppressiveness. And you all have beautifully expounded upon all of this.
Love that reference. Love that reference.
I like that we're tying in like current times and we're historical times, right? Such as slavery, segregation, and all that, because we need to have conversations like that, especially for our children. So I guess right now I'm going to jump ahead in terms of what are some common signs that unresolved family trauma is being passed from one generation to the next, even when people don't recognize it, because we're passing this off to our children, right? And the cycle's just continuing. So what do you think would be some common signs that we're passing these things to our children today?
Negative self-talk towards ourselves and others, right? A lot of out of wedlock pregnancies, a lot of single families, single mothers, revolving door of incarceration, right? And illiteracy, drugs and alcohol abuse and addiction, lack of emotional intelligence, anger, and violence.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then also, things such as colorism. It's interesting. I was talking to my colleagues before we left for the holiday, and there's a viral video that I actually shared on my Instagram account with a Black therapist saying, let Black kids enjoy the summer. Stop saying that they're too Black or stay out of the sun because they're too Black. That, mindset and that language is traumatic, even, by itself. Because what you're saying is that if I get too Black, then I won't be attractive or I won't be valuable. And then that rhetoric and that, language is passed down from generation to generation.
I'm jumping in on this one. And as a kid, I used to be told that I needed to go outside. because I was too light, right? So go outside. You stay outside all day. And it wasn't just my, my parents, it was like family members and stuff like that. Because I've always been considered, in comparison to my siblings, I've always been considered like the white sheep of the family, of how fair I was. And literally, like, that was something that has been inbred in my head. Like, yeah, I wasn't like, right? So there's the other spectrum of that. There are a lot of
Yeah.
us, just some of the stuff our parents told us. And for years, I always thought of, because of something that my parents told me.
Yeah.
So
And
funny that how it carries on.
yeah, and it's even the little things like, "Ooh, girl, you need to get your hair done. Your hair looks a mess." Like, if because it's in its natural state, or you're teaching that type of language is taught from generation to generation, and that's trauma, because you're teaching children, specifically Black children, that if their skin is a certain complexion, either too light or too dark, if their hair is, the whole texturism conversation, the featureism conversation, that all is passed down from generation to generation. Now everything has to be put into context. Granted, a lot of these things were centered around the survival of our ancestors, and how they were, perceived in the area of the white power structure, and the white power structure, and how they, were able to get a job, how they were able to have livelihood. But once we kind of were able to detach ourselves from that type of rhetoric, we still carried that on. And that's, part of the trauma.
I even see that with the Black Greek letter organizations. I used to be an advisor for NPHC, and I used to, during the pledging moments before, they X that. I remember some guys who were pledging Q. One guy in particular, light skin, wavy hair, green eyes. He called hell pledging Omega Psi Phi, because he was light skinned and he didn't depict, that dark skinned, muscular football, athletic image. And same with the AKAs, they've been associated with light skinned women. You know what I'm saying? And so that history of colorism has transcended throughout history and found its way in various spaces within the African community, African American community.
Yeah, let me add my voice to that one, because we're getting really at Lisa's question, which is, what are the strategies that we have seen people use out there to buffer and deal with this stuff? And so you're talking about colorism and internal oppression as a protective strategy to survive an oppressive system that continues to its unrelenting pressure on you. And I say that you specifically for Black people, but you specifically for people who are not a part of the 0.1%. Everybody else is commodity. Everybody else is tool. Everybody else is dehumanized. When even right down to, I'm not my name, I'm my credential. And my credential is better than yours because mine can get licensed and yours can't. See, this kind of hierarchy of belonging, hierarchy of inclusion, hierarchy of importance. Okay, we accept all of these things without questioning them, and when we accept them without questioning, they become they become invisible prisons. It's like air to the birds or water to the fish. They just don't question the condition they're in. And the condition we are in, for instance, how big a difference this is for the older folks, you'll get this. Okay, so today we could fuss about whether a president can make $1 billion in a year by creating a company and creating the regulations to do everything just to make sure he can make the money. That's a problem. That's our problem today. In 1980, the problem was whether the person, broke in and stole some paperwork out of the political office or not, and then lied about it. That is a lie. That toppled the entire government. Then, All right. And this thing don't even touch it. That's how hot the water is. And we are the frogs in it. We think we're doing okay. We are not.
Yeah. And to
Trauma
your
takes
part,
over.
to your point, othering and marginalization within us is also a form of trauma because we're supposed to be inclusive, black is black. But now, and the caste system is something that has been put in place from centuries ago because of, you know, um, education, Greek affiliations, and I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, but I don't think of myself as better than somebody else who's not affiliated or who didn't get an opportunity to go to college or acquire a degree that would have them advance in a certain way. And I think that the caste system is something that could be utilized as an example of generational trauma. The mindset that, oh, we're black but we're not that type of black.
And I'll say, Lisa, really quick, that the passing of this trauma and the next generation is something that I'm very excited about when it comes to our youth. All right, I'm seeing not only on a political standpoint but a social consciousness where the youth are saying, "Hey, we realize that policy, the laws, what goes down in our city government to our state to our federal is impacting our lives as far as what we have as far as healthcare access, as far as what we have as far as education, and what the police state is. All these factors are part of the trauma structure that has affected our people for so very long. But our youth are saying, hey, we've got to do something different. They're aggressively seeking new ways to make change. And it's something that's been needed. I think our generation, my generation, those more recently passed, lost something that we had in the 60s and 70s. Perhaps we got complacent with some of our prosperity, but today's youth are more and more conscious that we've got to effectively make a change by what's going on with the law, the legal system, and demand that there be a change that is on the books, that is demonstrative and can be held up in a court of law. And then we can talk about some of the things which are going on and how we go about and demanding a fix to what's going on in mental health, for example. So I'm very, very excited about those potential solutions there.
Dr. Anderson, you bring up a very extraordinary point when it comes down to complacency. And I served in the military, 2 branches, the Marines and the Army, and we utilized this mantra, complacency kills. And it's what you have alluded to. It just beautifully brings me to the next question of how Black families are taught to stay strong and avoid discussing mental health. How can we change that culture, that mindset, without losing resilience that has helped our community? And I mean, and I'll even expand even more with that. How do we tell someone that's on the autism spectrum? How do we tell someone that has Down syndrome within our communities that are heavily marginalized and basically swept under the rug, figuratively speaking, and not thought about, othered, as Ari had mentioned early? How can we be more inclusive as a family, as a community, as a village within our Black diaspora?
I'll be quick and personal here. My research is driven by facing one of the most chronic critical mental illnesses that we face, and schizophrenia. It has a high heredity quotient. It's in my family. I started off in addiction. I started in neuroscience, and I went back to where I felt I was guided or told I needed to be in, because there simply isn't enough mental health resources in our community, and quite frankly, for all of America. And so the first thing we have to do is get the family to overcome the stigma of talking about what it is that impacts our lives on a daily basis. And we're talking about a mental health crisis. We're talking about not just what I'm talking, we're talking about bipolarism, depression, and on, anything across those spectrums, and including autism, what you're talking about. We have to be able to go back into the family structure, right? Collectively, just like we're getting on these calls and talking about these critical issues, we have to demand our families do that. The cookout is gone. The family reunion is gone, right? Mm-hmm. Someone has to demand that we put it back together, right? Yes. And say, we are going to collectively have a wonderful time. We're gonna play our music. We're gonna hear the great songs of the Frankie Beverleys and Isleys or Usher or wherever. Yes. But the reality is, part of that conversation has to be about, you know what? All of us have kidney disease. What are you eating? How are you eating? Right? Where's your zip code? Where are you living? What can we do to move about? We lost some of the history. My friends and family, some of the doctors from Nigeria, that the other cultures have borrowed and learned from. When there's a new house bought, they're saying, no, you're not going to live there. We're all going to put in all 10 families. We're going to help you come up with that earnest money, that down payment, because we want you to live somewhere else. We want you to educate your kids somewhere else. And we want you to have access to better healthcare, better doctors. And all these things are systematically related to strengthening the response to this mental health crisis that we face, and making sure that if you are on the spectrum, you have access to care, not miles and miles away, but really nearby. Someone can build a relationship, but the family dynamic where we get together and we talk about what we're facing and what worked, what doesn't work, who we should be letting into our space is critical. We must value our personal family dynamic again, instead of being individually siloed. We don't know our neighbors, but a lot of us don't even know our own family. And yet we're all suffering from the same crisis.
Wow. I love that you said that, everybody being in their individual silos. And it's true. It's all about self. Back in my days, family was so important. Mm-hmm. Right? To gather with your family, to do things with your family. And you're not really seeing that. And the point of neighbors, people don't talk to people. Do you know what I mean? And so everybody is just by themselves. And we need to kind of come back together. And I agree with that. But I guess one thing I want to touch on right now is that we have all this planned. I mean, some of us are like walking time bombs, really and truly. And so once that one thing triggers you, that's it. And you're off, right? So a lot of us have to go through our forgiveness stage. So forgiveness and accountability often comes up in conversations about healing. How can families heal without addressing past hurts openly? And what does true healing look like, or could look like?
I'd like to join that conversation and bridge from Dr. Henderson's point around what got lost. He really went after the coherence of the family, of the extended family coming together, and the rituals of coming together, and the rituals of belonging, and the relational terrain. There's a fabric of relationship. We talk about being tight knitted and loose knitted. Well, that terrain has been fragmented at the relational level. It's so much, and it's reinforced by the rugged individual mythology that you're supposed to be able to make it on your own. Why are you asking me for help? Why are you not handling this on your own? Why you need the down payment? All right. So, and that all goes all the way back to that original womb, break up the family. Now, what was the first thing they did when we got loose? Well, we built our own churches together. We built our own schools together. We lived in compounds together. We wrote down. We read to each other because some of us couldn't read. We wrote for each other because some of us couldn't write, and we lifted ourselves up together, and then come the second founding, as they like to call it now, and we get loosed into the mainstream without a tether, and without homing sensibility, without coming home. So we lost the coherence engine of Black church identity. We lost the Black collective framing of what the reality is for you, for us, because there's no longer Black only schooling that kind of shapes the worldview of a being. Now it's shaped by beings whose interests are let's say, are different from our interests, and may not. So then in our institutional losses. So all that go to say, all of this to say that terrain, we have to pay attention to the relational terrain at the personal relationship, family terrain at the level of extended families. That gets you to civic and neighborhood stuff and how we govern these ourselves. This is your policy stuff, Dr. Henderson. We can't get the policy unless we can actually if we can get to the cookout. You know, you can't get that. Can't get that. That's a higher level of functioning that you're asking for.
Yes.
So we have lost that coherency. We used to function all the way to the institutional level from the crib. Now maybe some of us still go to church. And when we go, it ain't about that. So you see, that's what these. So when you say, "What have we lost, and why are we harmed?" Okay, these are the losses, and these are the harms. So what's the repair? Which is where I think Alicia was going. What's the repair? The repair is this conversation, and then Dr. Henderson, the conversation with loved ones and family. And then Ariana, the neighbor thing, and then Kurt and Dr. Corporal, we talking just because we've gotten some height in life, we can call it whatever, we've gotten off the ground. The real deal to really heal Black America is to head back to the ground, to the basics, to each other.
Yeah.
Can I say this? In response to the question, for me, true healing is identifying and unlearning detrimental thoughts and behaviors, using coping resources and support groups, and understanding what it means to be accountable and responsible. I think is a good place to start, right? Coming up with programs at churches, basically getting the word out, and I think it starts from us. I come from a first generation college environment, right? I remember having a conversation with my mother about her whooping her granddaughter, who was about 4 or 5 at the time. She was struggling. Her mother was on crack, and my mother was taking care of her, so she was acting out. My background, undergrad, is family child community services, and I took a class called Children Under Stress, and in that children don't have the cognitive ability to articulate what's going on with them, so they tend to act out as a way to communicate, their pain. And so I remember my mother whooped my. I was at home for a break, and I was awakened to my mother spanking my niece, and I went to my mom and I said, "Mom, she's angry. I said her mother is not taking care of her. She wants to be with her mom." And so I said, I took this class where it talks about how children are not cognitively developed enough to articulate what's going on with them. So they lash out. And so when I explained it to my mother, when I educated her on what I had learned in college, she started crying. And I'm thinking, why is she crying? And so what I got from that was she didn't know better. And so I had given her a different perspective that allowed her to see life from a different lens. And so I think all of us are in a position to educate, enlighten, and empower others with the knowledge that God has given us.
And shout out to India. Oh no,
Um,
go ahead, Ari. Go ahead, Ari. You good?
I think that the overarching goal and the way that we can do all this is creating safe spaces that does not allow us to vilify each other, because unfortunately, we use identifiers to label things that's outside of our normal binary. If somebody is on the autism spectrum, and we're starting to now understand or have like information about what autism is or what autism presents itself to be. And we all know that there's different forms of autism. But if you see a child that's on the autism spectrum and you don't know anything about it, then, a lot of us, unfortunately, are so quick to label that child as, a behavioral problem or defiant. It's like, no, you take time to learn about what's going on. You find information, even have to buy culturally competent information, because unfortunately our children are diagnosed later than their white counterparts as it pertains to autism. So you find different, we have to find, like, like everyone was saying, we have to use our churches, our organizations, our book clubs, our Black clubs, to find organizations that provide resources like this, so that we can create a safe space for people who are who are on the autism spectrum, who are living with bipolar disorder, are living with panic disorder and anxiety and borderline personality disorder, as opposed to shunning them away and making them seem like, okay, well, we can't handle you. Yes, we can. We can help you manage through this. We can help you walk through this. We might not have the lived experience, but we are now living in the internet era. You can find anything on the internet. You can have, it's curated information now. So even if you have to use the internet as a foundational place to find out what's going on or how to help somebody manage this, do that, but create a safe space where a person feels welcomed and not shunned away.
Let me ask this question. I'm gonna throw a wrench in the game here. I've worked with autistic children and school teachers, and my concern is, how does racism affect how these children are diagnosed? I mean, a lot of our young Black boys in particular are put on medication, right? So how much of that is really something that serves in the best interest of the Black community, or is it just a way for folks to make money off of the plight of Black children?
I'll expound on that real quickly. There was an incident quite recently where a young Black child, a young man, a mother had to put a camera in his locks,
Mhm.
and this teacher was very rough with him. Constantly called him the N-word, repeatedly, and had to bring it up to the highest level of the court within Mississippi. These kinds of atrocities are arcane, not talked about, unseen until light is shined on it. And hidden cameras, and all of a sudden, school cameras are off. Oh, maintenance happened.
Mhm.
Oh, this happened. But for this child to be abused, adversely abused, there's no reasoning, there's no efficacy, there's no structural integrity around that. It's hatred. It's something seeded from that teacher's generational past of just vile, sick racism.
Mhm.
And we have to, the gatekeepers that are in those spaces need to be able to provide ways of reassurance for family in schools and a lot of transparency. If you're going to just allow a teacher to not get a background check, to not get proper training, to not get quarterly training, 4 times, 3 times, monthly training, seminars, any kind of background that will provide updated, efficacious information on how autism, how Down syndrome, how anyone that's on the ADHD side of things, adapt with societal norms that doesn't include them.
Mhm.
That's a good starting point to have those essential structural components there, because for that to happen to this child is absolutely unacceptable. I mean, the cries sometimes keep me up at night, and it affects me, being that I have a son that's on the autism spectrum. And, my oldest and my youngest, my 17-year-old and my 7-year-old. And it gets me to wonder, are my children's schools doing enough?
Okay.
Yeah, I want to expand on that really quick, and I appreciate your candor there, Dr. Carter. And to Kurt's question, which I think he knows the answer to, that we are disproportionately medicated. And the school system
Yes.
is a huge part of that. But here's the problem. From age 9 to 18, that is America's #1 demographic for prescription drugs. It's not adults. It's not the elderly. It's our children. And with that, when it comes to psychiatric drugs, we are disproportionately put on these medications. We have a responsibility to make sure that when we are medicating our kids or allowing it, because oftentimes that teacher can suggest this, and then the process can go, and it goes on the record of that child and will stay with them all the way to their college transcript. And sometimes it is necessary. Sometimes it does make a better quality of life. But other times there's an opportunity for, as Ariana, I'm sure, can tell us, cognitive behavioral therapy. There's other means, other trainings that besides the medication, or a lesser degree of it, but that prescription drug is being prescribed by someone who is a practitioner, an MD who is not necessarily trained the way a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or even your therapist is, right? They give out more drugs as a general practitioner to your children than any other medical professional. And so there you have to say, draw a line and drill down, and you have to own your child's mental health. And you cannot assume just because it's a teacher or school system, that is what is being done and what's in the best interest. We have tons of studies to show that, as Kurt alluded to, we are disproportionately medicated when oftentimes there's other solutions for our children.
Okay, so in talking in terms of, we've mentioned a lot like churches and schools, and other kind of community institutions, as they play a role, especially with our kids or whatever. What have that they can become stronger partners in promoting mental health, mental wellness today?
I
I
think
got a
that
couple of things to say. Go ahead. I'll follow you, Ariana.
thank you. We could, churches in particular could align or collaborate with organizations like NAMI, the National Association of Mental Illness, as well as culturally competent organization health, this platform, Black Therapists Matters, so that we can receive the proper information. And now there are certifications, like organize a training for church members to get mental health first aid certifications, so that when someone who is having a mental health crisis comes into the doors of the church, or the mosque, or whatever faith-based organization or building that they're going into and dealing with a mental health crisis, granted, you're not able to diagnose that person, but you're able to understand the signs of someone going through an active mental health crisis, and align them with resources that they would need. And also, it dispels during these trainings, and aligning with these organizations dispels the stigma that something is wrong with you, because we already are dealing rhetoric that says, "Oh well, you're not depressed. You have a demon on you, so we have to pray that out of you." No, you can explain to, okay, these are signs and symptoms of depression. So we have a database of therapists, Black Christian therapists, Black Muslim therapists, Black Jewish therapists at your disposal that you might feel comfortable talking to. But I do think that, we need to align with mental health organizations, and specifically cultural competent mental health organizations that dispels the stigma that has been, permeating the Black community for years at this point as it pertains to the state of our mental health.
Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to take it to another side now. So we talked about institutions and how they can help, but what about daily habits or family traditions? Like we're trying to create legacy here, right? So what can we do here in order to help future generations to lasting legacy on emotion intelligence, resilience, healing, and positive mental health for future generations? Like, what could we do
We
That's a
can
really,
in terms of daily habits? Like,
that's
what
a good
can we
question.
start
Brianna, go ahead.
putting in place? Sorry.
um there are a few things we can do. We can teach our kids, good, healthy practices, such as, the important, I tell my clients all the time, our mental and physical health is one entity. So if you are not taking care of your physical health, it's going to show in your mental health, making sure that there are healthy practices, such as eating certain vegetables, like leafy vegetables, vitamin, the things that has calcium, vitamin, C, things of that sort that can help increase the serotonin in our bodies, that can improve our mood. Things such as practicing mindfulness, not rushing. We're always, I think that a thing that is prevalent in our culture is that we're always doing something in order to get to the next thing because we're so goal oriented. So I'm sitting here eating breakfast so that I can hurry up and get to work on time. No, practice mindfulness. If you're getting up, be mindful about eating your breakfast. Take your time with eating your breakfast. If you're mindful about, drinking water, be mindful about drinking water. Practice self-care. Self-care is not equivalent to weakness, and I think that's another thing that we have been taught, that if we practice self-care, we're being selfish. Because our whole community is based on hard work and a merit system. If you work hard, you get rewards. If you don't work hard, then you're not going to get anything. So, just teaching our little ones that self-care is okay. And then also giving them the practice to express themselves. Another mantra that is prevalent in a lot of Black families, specifically older Black families, is children are supposed to be seen. You don't have an opinion in this house, living in this house. I don't want to hear it. Treat a safe space where if a child says, I don't like this goes on, I don't like this, let in a healthy,
Right.
conflict resolution way, fire you or you're being disobedient, just listen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I
No, go ahead, Dr. Henderson. Oh, sorry about that.
well, I want to
Let me in
expand
before
on
y'all roll, though, okay?
I love a lot of the times she was talking about, but I love the question also, Lisa, because I think it's fundamental that we talk about solutions beyond identifying it. And on a practical side, here I want our people, all people. Number one, when a woman is pregnant, we know that trauma from that spouse, from her environment, her workplace, and her diet can be passed to the child. It's documented. You do peer-reviewed studies. We can pull them. We have to protect the child in the womb because the trauma does become generational. We can prove that through epigenetics. We know that syndemics affect it. So we must get back to a place where that child of any race, creed, or color during that time, in that 9 months, is protected. We must demand systems to protect that period of everything from gestation to birth. It's critical. It's how the next change in mental health is going to come about. And then after that, we as a people have to do things very simple as far as eliminating plastics from our diets. We've got to. Our bodies are full of plastics. If you do your research, you will be shocked how much of your body is now full of plastics. Those toxins are affecting your neurofunction. They're affecting your mental health. They're affecting your ability to repair and heal from physiological standpoint. Okay. And we must get back to boiling our water. It says, we're buying spring water. Oh, these lovely commercials. No, you have to look at your tap water, these bottled waters. These things cost 50 cents if you order. You stick them in there and you'll find your water is impure. This is God's gift to us. That's why it comes over. But we've got to boil our water because our water is impure. And your zip code, the further it is beneath the poverty line, the less clean it is. Unfortunately, Michigan, anyone. So the responsibility goes back to policy, right? We have to demand our climate, our environments are safe. And then from there, I'm going to go back into what we do as a family. We've got to get back to what Ariana's talking about, what Dr. Robinson talked about. Check-ins. We've got to normalize a family check-in. There's a set time that we are sitting down to break bread. It's been, when I was a kid, we ate at 6 o'clock every day. If I was there, he's the last one to sit, we ate. And it seems like something so like archaic. I've got things to do. But now the phones have to be put away. All right. We know that we must communicate like we're doing now. Without a cell phone, we know that the communication is understood. Language is not simply speaking. There's the body language, there's an understanding, and we've got to get back to that collective shift of honoring the family, honoring that time, and being able to tell stories and understand what's going on and say what's going right in your life, what's going wrong in your life. Here's what I did, and be honest about, I failed here, but now that I'm a father, a mother, a grandfather, an uncle, here's how you can do it right. And let the generational, quote unquote, curses and trauma be addressed and give them an opportunity to not repeat the same mistakes of the past. And I'll pull it there.
Let me say this.
I was getting ready to say, Dr. Robinson, definitely want to make sure you get in there.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to join what's being said here. All the points are spot on. I'm really wanting to encourage us to believe that we know very little about what it means to be human and how to really cultivate ourselves in this space. That knowledge was separated from us when we in the original womb. Now, once upon a time, we ate all the right stuff. Once upon a time, we knew what time to come in and sit with the folks and knew our places and the whatnot and in the order and whatnot. Those things are lost. We need to reset new order. We have to recognize that even us today, elders, middle-aged parents, new parents, we are woefully unprepared. And the Western knowledge, if you get a PhD, I got 2, and I got not enough to know what there is. But what I can tell you is that like when Sister Ariana was saying, praying about it, praying the spirits out of your head, that's not gonna cut it. And if you've done any kind of had any kind of experience with psychiatry, well, you're gonna be on the wobble testing for weeks, months, or years, finding the right molecule that's gonna get to be the one that you actually need if you find one, no matter what you got. So going down that road is a slippery slope without a true promise of an end. Now, everybody you see is operating at a deficit of their potential. Your physiology gets degraded over time, year on year, 50, 60 years, where by the time you hit 60, you're 30 or 40% degraded physiologically, given the way we live and what we eat and what gets done. And those are the people who are teaching our kids and are making our policy decisions and are leading our institutions and whatnot. And you say, are my schools doing enough for them? No, they're overclocked. They can't possibly do enough. They got their own stresses and pressures. That teacher that misused, that missed with that kid, Dr. Carter, that was an overclocked teacher whose physiology was breaking down and so brittle that they could not provide the level of due care that's necessary. And even if they wanted to, their physiology couldn't even make the bridge to couple to have that student feel like you care for me so that I now can care about what you have to say to me. See, these are the larger breakdowns of society. That should say breakdown society. These are the things that are left out of American society that you have to fend for yourself. This that rugged individual stuff. We have to go back to the business of carving out what it means to be human, what it means to be Black human, what it means to be Black family inside of the context of this space, so then we can navigate what's really going on here. Because, as far as I can tell, the story at the top of the surface doesn't match what's really going on the ground, and whatever's going on the ground is shifting faster than you and I are being able to keep up with in many ways. So I'm going to close by saying the proper thing to do: get the nutrition, get the love, stay close to your people. Nothing's going to be better for your mental health than the love and care of your loved ones. And the people closest. Nothing's going to do better than that. Nothing's going to do better than that. They cover up with you and bring you the food and the drink and make sure your water's clean and that you're up early enough to get some sunshine and that did you get your walk today, Auntie? When that happens, all of us get better. So long as that's not happening, you can have all the CBT, you can have all the best molecule, you can have even the adaptive terrain, hyper wellness. That ain't gonna help none until we get this people thing back together again. Full stop.
Kurt, you get the final
point. Just out of respect for time, I'm gonna just hold off because I got this thing about time. So I respect that. So I'm just gonna basically save this for another occasion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me say that.
Yeah. So how got to be a part 2 for this as well, and we are coming to a close. So how can everyone follow you on your multifaceted social media platforms?
Who's first? I went first last time.
Adaptive Terrain Theory, adaptiveterraintheory.com. You'll find everything you need to know about me and anything I love.
Thank you.
My Facebook page is just Ariana Johnson. My Instagram is at Ariana Johnson 23. And then my LinkedIn is Ariana Johnson.
Thank you so much.
You can find me at Edward Henderson 8 on LinkedIn. Pretty simple there. You'll find all the links that you need there.
Okay. You'll find me on LinkedIn under Lisa Carrington, and I encourage anybody has any questions, want to reach out, have conversation, feel free to do so.
Kurt Lamar, you can Google it, or you can go to Kurt Lamar Instagram. Actually, Lamar Kurt on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. It'll be Kurt Lamar.
You can find me as Dr. Corporal Deontay Carter on LinkedIn. Dr. Ante Cartier on Instagram, Facebook, Ante Cartier. I am a poet as well, so the Poetic Odyssey of Dr. Ante Cartier / Dr. Handsome on Instagram and Facebook. And so, yeah, all in all, such a pleasure for you all to join us in this space, speaking on healing the Black family. Be blessed, be well, and always remember, it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. It is a strength. It builds on your mental dexterity, your mental acumen, your self-esteem, your self-efficacy, and as Emperor James Baldwin always says, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. So do things with purpose, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Shout out to my grandmother, Hetty Griffith. Happy birthday to you, and be well, be blessed, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Enjoy your day.
Bye.